Even though this is one of the most explosive decisions that Joe Biden and his administration has taken regarding Israel, you probably haven't heard about it in the media. And no, it's not just about the United States condemning four Israeli Jews for their so-called actions against Palestinians in the West Bank. Rather, this is about the United States condemning 500,000 Israeli Jews in the land of Israel. However, it gets a whole lot worse than that. If you're a pro-Israel Bible believer who supports the Jewish people's right to be sovereign in the entirety of their land, Joe Biden might be coming after you, and he might be coming after you soon. All of those details coming up on today's episode. I'm Luke Hilton, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, please hit subscribe. Channel's doing well in the last week. You know how the algorithms go. They like to censor us, put us under, and then sometimes they let us slip through the cracks. We don't know if it's on purpose or not, but you guys subscribing, hitting that notification bell, leaving us comments, all those things help us out a lot. By the way, if you're listening on podcast platforms, you can also go, whatever app you're using, just go over and hit those stars. Give us a rating if you feel like leaving us an actual rating, 1 or 2 sentences. That really helps us out as well. Podcast is growing. We're reaching nearly 1,000 people with every single podcast. You guys giving us a rating really helps us out. So maybe you've heard of this. Maybe you haven't. Joe Biden signed an executive order against Israeli settlers. And I'm going to dive right in and read a little bit of the actual executive order because it is mind-blowing. And then as we get further into today's show, you're going to want to keep watching. We'll get into the reasons why. By the way, according to Joe Biden, this is a national emergency. Quote, I, Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States of America, find that the situation in the West Bank, that's where I'm sitting right now, in particular, high levels of extremist settler violence, forced displacement of people in villages, and property destruction. I live here. Haven't seen much of that lately, but we'll get to that more. Blah, blah, blah. Has reached intolerable levels and constitutes a serious threat to the peace, security, and stability of the West Bank and Gaza. Somehow settlers in the West Bank somehow affects Gaza. Because I think he's actually talking about the IDF, who's killing terrorists in Gaza. Somehow the IDF usually equals settlers. Israel and the broader Middle East region. These actions undermine the foreign policy objectives of the United States, including the viability of a two-state solution and ensuring Israelis and Palestinians can attain equal measures of security, prosperity, and freedom. They also undermine the security of Israel. So the United States is deciding what undermines the security of Israel now, even though Israel themselves have said that it's not a problem. That coming up soon. They also undermine the security of Israel and have the potential to lead to broader regional destabilization across the Middle East, threatening the United States personnel and interests. For these reasons, these actions constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with that threat. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden has declared that 4 Israeli settlers, and potentially more if he decides more, if he decides it applies to more, constitute a, what did he say? An extraordinary threat to the national security of the United States. And he has decided to declare a national emergency because of these 4 Israeli settlers. So men, women, children living in Judea and Samaria and East Jerusalem, by the way, living normal lives, building homes, and living here actually constitutes a threat, is actually a threat to destabilizing the Middle East, constitutes a threat to Gaza, of all places, and Joe Biden's decided to declare a national emergency. By the way, this didn't, I'm sure you guys know, didn't have anything at all to do with Joe Biden campaigning in Michigan right now, a state that just happens to have a very large Muslim population and where Biden has just so happens to have been losing support recently due to the war with Gaza. Probably doesn't have anything to do with that whatsoever. Because it's just an election year. Joe Biden has to worry about getting the votes of the large Muslim population in the United States. Okay, all jokes and sarcasm aside, guys, this is not only a horrific blood libel, and it's actually completely false, meaning our president of the United States is a liar. Oh boy. But it is actually an attack on Israel itself as a nation, Israel as a peoplehood, the Jewish people, and Israel's government. And as we'll see in a few minutes, it gets even worse because it's an attack on all people who stand with Israel, at least those who stand with Israel's right to be sovereign in the entirety of their land. You're going to have to hang on, stay tuned, because this part of this executive order and other decisions made by the United States government actually has the potential to come against you. Because if you're watching this, I'm guessing you believe the same as I do, that Israel has a right to be sovereign in their land, and Joe Biden might be coming for you. Hang tight, stay tuned for the second half of today's show. Okay, so JNS reports that Joe Biden's order targeted 4 Israeli citizens who Washington believes have, quote, directed or participated in violent actions or threats against Palestinian Arabs in the disputed territory. Disputed territory is another name for Judea and Samaria. It's a little bit better than West Bank or occupied territories. Israel 365 News has described these 4 particular men as Israeli Sabras. They're not even American citizens who moved to Israel. There's a lot of Israelis who are dual American Israeli citizens, a lot of Americans that have made aliyah to Israel. No, these are native-born Israelis, okay? So this executive order, according to the media, means that these 4 men, their assets and bank accounts in America will be frozen, and individuals and companies would be barred from providing assets or services to them through the United States financial system. Who are they? Okay, I don't know any of these men personally, but here's their names. David Chai Chastai of Givat Ronen, Yinon Levy of Meitarim Farm, Einan Tanjil of Kiryat Ekron, and Shalom Zickerman of Mitzpeh Yair. What's interesting is, and I don't have time to get into the actual weeds and details of this, but all of these men are suspected or involved in alleged attacks, or, they were held on suspicion of. In other words, all of them, the United States has a suspicion or is alleging that they were involved in attacks against Palestinians. But none of them, there's no proof that they killed this Palestinian, murdered that guy, beat that guy to a pulp or whatever. It's just like the United States has decided to target these 4 men as suspected of some kind of violence. But I want to bring out one of them, because David Chastai is suspected of being involved in the Hawara riot on the same day that the Yaniv brothers were murdered in end of February 2023. Now, we were here. We knew the Yaniv brothers. We know their family. They live close by to where I'm sitting right now. And we went to Hawara that night, the night that they were killed, okay? Or they were killed during the morning, and that night we went down there because there were supposedly all these riots going on. You can go back and watch our video to see for yourself what riots actually took place in Hawara. Were there angry Israelis there that were throwing rocks and things like that? Yes. Were there actual riots? That might be stretching it too far, because most of the cars that were burned was a junkyard, and there was 1 or 2 houses that had some smoke damage, okay? There was a Palestinian that died during that time frame, but it was never proven, or never even came out who was actually responsible for his death, okay? But David Chastai, one of these 4 men, is suspected of being involved in the Hawara riot. But guess who did not get sanctioned by the United States? Guess who was not the target of Joe Biden's executive order? The terrorists who murdered the Yaniv brothers on that same day in cold blood. Guys, the images, because unfortunately I saw the images and videos of the Yaniv brothers seconds after they were murdered. This was one of the worst murders and terrorist attacks I've ever seen. We're talking about cold blood, murdered point blank range, and then Palestinians going up to them within seconds and filming the blood and the gore and the violence and the graphic images, okay? This was one of the worst terrorist attacks. And guess who, do you see the Biden administration talking about that? And they're just one example. 2 Jewish men that were murdered because they live in the land of Israel, of hundreds of Jews that have been murdered in the last decade for living in Judea and Samaria. So David Chastai is suspected of being in a riot, not of killing anyone, not even of injuring anyone. And again, you can go back and watch the footage that we took. But he's just suspected of participating in this riot, right? The riot that was not nearly, it was maybe one fraction of what the media reported it to be. But again, hypocrisy, complete hypocrisy from the United States, because They don't care about Jews that are murdered in cold blood. Instead, they care about alleged and suspected violence and riots against the Palestinian people in the West Bank that can't even be proven. Prime Minister Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said, quote, "The overwhelming majority of residents in Judea and Samaria are law-abiding citizens, many of whom are currently fighting as conscripts and reservists to defend Israel. Israel acts against all Israelis who break the law everywhere. Exceptional measures are unnecessary." And it's true. Are there Israelis that commit acts of criminality in Judea and Samaria? Yes, there's Israelis that are criminals in the rest of Israel. There's Americans that are criminals. Does that mean a foreign country needs to sanction all of their assets just because they committed some kind of criminal acts? And again, these four men, there's not even proof that they did. They're just suspected of being allegedly involved in riots and protests. So in the end of 2023, Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced a visa restriction policy for Israelis under which Washington would bar entry into the United States of those accused of undermining, quote, peace, security, or stability in the West Bank. And he went on to say, quote, "We have underscored the Israeli government the need to do more to hold accountable extremist settlers who have committed violent attacks against Palestinians in the West Bank." Now, according to Secretary of State Antony Blinken, according to Biden, you would think settler violence is a horrific, growing phenomenon, a pandemic, a plague happening in Judea and Samaria. We're going to get to the stats on the actual settler violence in just a second. It's a new year, and for many people, that means New Year's resolutions. Some people, it's exercising more, reading more, watching less TV. Personally, I'm trying to lose weight. Resolutions are there to help you become the best version of yourself, and what better way to do that than the one-of-a-kind Israel Bible? You may have studied the Bible before, but the Israel Bible is not just another Hebrew Bible. It's a window into the connection between the scriptures, the land of Israel, and our personal lives. Its illuminating commentary focuses on the land of Israel, explaining why the fate of humanity rests on this one small country. And it will help you understand God's prophecies for the end of days, promises he's fulfilling right now before our very eyes. The Israel Bible combines the original Hebrew text with clear, accurate English translations, and the Israel Bible brings these ancient words to life like never before. It's got beautiful charts, it's got maps, illustrations. The Israel Bible is vital for anyone looking to deepen their understanding of the Bible. The best part, it was made with you in mind, with profound commentary by Rabbi Tuli Wise, other Orthodox Jewish teachers. It's designed for people like you and me, the curious seeker, the faithful believer, the one who yearns to find comfort and peace during these challenging times. If you're eager to deepen your connection with God's Word and the Holy Land, consider purchasing the Israel Bible today. Click the link down in the description to learn more and start your journey towards understanding the Hebrew Scriptures and find some comfort and solace amidst the turmoils of this world. Whether you're a Jew or a Christian like me who's seeking insight and inspiration amid the ongoing challenges in Israel, this is a revelation you don't want to miss. Link is down in the description below. Please consider purchasing the Israel Bible today. Okay, so first of all, settler violence is not a real thing. It's just not, okay? It's like saying there's an epidemic of like Gen Zers in your town who wear a certain color, let's say pink trench coats, and rob ATMs, okay? Maybe it happened once. Maybe it happened twice. Does that mean it's an epidemic? No, okay? I'm just trying to show you how ridiculous this is. According to official stats inside Israel, Israeli police figures made public in November, we'll just give you one period. In the period from October 7th, when the war started, through November 7th, so 1 month, there were 97 incidents of illegal activities attributed to Jews in Judea and Samaria. Okay? That doesn't even mean it's settler violence. Just as illegal things happen, right? 500,000 Israeli Jews, 97 acts of illegal activities, okay? Guess what? That's down from 184 offenses in the same period in 2022, okay? So 50% less. Again, not settler violence, just people breaking the law, okay? That happens everywhere. So in general, overall though, settler violence or supposed settler violence has actually declined in the last year. On the contrary, between October 7th and January 15th, the Hatzalah, the rescue service of Judea and Samaria, recorded more than 2,600 terrorist attacks against Israelis in Judea and Samaria, including 760 cases of rock throwings, 551 fire bombings, 12 attempted or successful stabbings, and 9 vehicular assaults. So again, there is an actual pandemic of Jews being killed or terrorists attempting to kill Jews in Judea and Samaria. But Biden, that's just inconvenient for him to hear that. So he just ignores it, right? And instead focuses on the 97 whatever acts of Israelis breaking the law in Judea and Samaria. So Mark Zell is the co-chair of the Republican Overseas, and he had an interesting post on Twitter, or X, that I wanted to read, because this is where it gets interesting. This is where it's more than just the Biden administration sanctioning for Israelis, potentially more. He said, quote, "Many folks think that Biden's February 1st executive order is just about the sanctions against the four men. Not so. The real danger is the broad scope of the executive order pursuant to which the individuals were sanctioned. Conceivably, the order will chill donations to organizations that support Jewish communities, organizations, and activities in Judea and Samaria. Similarly, it will affect the ability of U.S. and foreign persons alike in expressing support for Jewish sovereignty over Judea and Samaria in opposition to a two-state solution. This is just the beginning." He goes on to say, "This Biden executive order is unprecedented and represents a serious threat to individual and associational liberties, regardless of what you may personally think about the right of the Jewish people to inhabit its biblical homeland." You guys remember that Obama-era IRS scandal where they targeted 501c3s in the United States who supported Judea and Samaria? Yep, we were, our organization, Hayuvel, Behind the Israel Guys, is one of the first ones that were targeted by Obama and came out later in an entire legal battle in the United States. As far as, and also we were headlined on front page of the New York Times. As far as organizations who support sovereignty in Israel's heartland, Judea and Samaria, and organizations who happen to be vocally against the two-state solution, you're looking at one of the main ones. That's right. As an aside, now might be a good time to make a donation to the work of the Israel Guys, theisraelguys.com, because Biden, who knows, might still be Obama, could be coming after us soon. Again, not for the first time. So we don't want to, we expect those types of things. But if you support Israel, if you're just vocal, other countries, they're starting to come against people for social media posts, like conservative social media posts. If you publicly or vocally support Israel's right to be sovereign in the entirety of their land, Biden might be coming after you. It doesn't matter if you're part of an organization. So, now might be a good time to decide where you want to stand, because there could be real life consequences coming very soon. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I hate being a doom and gloom type of person, but this is really happening right in front of us. According to The Guardian, Biden's order imposes financial and travel restrictions on those responsible, particularly these four Israelis. They're immediately sanctioned. They're already sanctioned, right? But it also has provisions to sanction settler leaders, politicians, and government officials who encourage violence, right? But it also has the potential to limit American groups from funding the more extreme settlements, some of which are heavily financed by donations from the United States. And by the way, an extreme settlement is basically a Jewish town in Judea and Samaria or East Jerusalem that the United States decides to classify as a settlement. And all of them are illegal under what the world considers international law. Most of them are not illegal, actually, under Israeli law or international law, whatever that means, but that the world considers them to be. So any settlement in Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria could be considered as extremist or radical or violent, whatever you want to call it. So bottom line is, guys, who knows what's coming? But if you stand unconditionally with Israel, especially Israel's sovereignty in the entirety of their land, times could be about to get tough. And like I said, you might want to decide where you stand, like soon, like now. Guys, don't forget to click that link below to get your own copy of the Israel Bible. Don't forget to subscribe. We're going to need your support, guys. You can make a donation at theisraelguys.com. But at least please subscribe to the Israel Guys channel. It really helps us out. And make sure, let me know what you think. Let me know where you stand. If you're bold and brave and you want to make that public statement, let me know where you stand in the comment section below. Guys, as always, tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening here in the land of Israel. We're here every single day, Monday through Friday, with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.